So today, we're diving into the story of one of modern art's absolute giants, Henri Matisse. But I want you to forget the typical artist's tale you might be picturing. This is something different. This is a story about a revolution that basically started by accident. A story that involves law books, a sickbed, and the absolutely explosive power of pure color.
I mean, just think about that for a second. What if the man who literally taught the world to see in these vibrant, impossible colors almost spent his entire life shuffling legal papers? It sounds completely absurd, but for Henri Matisse, it was almost his reality. And that's exactly where this incredible story kicks off.
You see, this was not a career path he planned out. Not at all. In fact, you could say art kind of ambushed him. His journey from a quiet law office to the absolute forefront of a visual revolution was anything but a straight line. Okay, so picture this. Matisse is a young guy, dutifully studying law, his future pretty much all mapped out for him. Then, when he's 21, he gets stuck in bed recovering from an operation. And to ease the crushing boredom, his mother gives him a simple box of paints. That one little gift, it changed everything. He later called it a kind of paradise. And from that moment on, believe me, those law books were completely forgot.
And this brand new path didn't just lead to a new job. It threw him right into the heart of an artistic explosion. He ended up becoming the leader of one of the most controversial, most talked about movements of the 20th century and earned himself a pretty shocking nickname in the process.
It all came to a head at this one art show in Paris back in 1905. A critic who was just completely scandalized by the raw, intense colors he was seeing dismissed Matisse and his friends as les fauves, which means the wild beasts. Now you have to understand, that was meant to be a career-ending insult. But instead, they wore it like a badge of honor, and just like that, Fauvism was born. And this painting, Woman with a Hat, this is what caused all the uproar. I mean, just look at it. There's a streak of green right down her nose. Her hair is this clash of orange and blue. To the critics in Paris, this was pure artistic anarchy. And why? Because Matisse wasn't painting what he saw in the world, he was painting the feeling of the world, a totally different thing.
This quote from him just captures his radical new philosophy perfectly. He was basically declaring independence from reality. He's saying a tree doesn't have to be brown, a face doesn't have to be pink. For him, color was now a tool for emotion, for creating harmony, not just for copying what you see. In his hands, art wasn't a window looking out onto the world anymore. It was a world all by itself.
But listen, you can't be a revolutionary in 20th century art without a rival. And Matisse's was the only other artist of his stature, Pablo Picasso. Their relationship, which was part friendship, part intense competition, would go on to define the entire course of modern art for decades. And wow, you could not find two more different artists. Matisse was all about color and joy and finding a sense of peace on the canvas. Picasso, on the other hand, was all about breaking things apart, deconstructing form, and challenging you intellectually. They were like the two opposite poles of modern art, pulling it in different directions.
They were the ultimate rivals, constantly watching each other, responding to what the other one was doing, and always pushing one another to be more daring. It was a rivalry built on this huge foundation of mutual respect, and their dynamic is really what propelled modern art forward for almost half a century.
But the greatest challenge of Matisse's entire life was still to come. And his response to it would lead to one of his most brilliant and iconic innovations ever.
Then in 1941, everything changed again. At 71 years old, a major surgery left him confined to a bed or a wheelchair. He just couldn't paint the way he used to. Now, for an artist known for his huge physical canvases, this should have been the end of his career. Game over. But for Matisse, nope. It was just the beginning of his final and maybe his most brilliant chapter.
So what does he do? He invents a whole new way to create. He called it drawing with scissors. He'd have his assistants paint these massive sheets of paper with brilliant colors, and then, from his chair, Matisse would take these giant shears and cut directly into the color, carving out shapes. These cutouts were then arranged on the walls of his studio, basically transforming his entire room into one giant immersive canvas.
And what's so incredible, the real kicker, is that this period of immense physical struggle led to his most free and joyful work. He was creating art that was bigger and bolder than anything he had done before, all from a wheelchair. It was just this stunning testament to the power of creativity to overcome any obstacle thrown in its way.
This final chapter of his life was truly a culmination of everything he had been working towards, an art of pure simplicity, of light, and of this incredible spiritual peace.
You see, his lifelong quest was to boil forms down to their absolute essence. You can see it so clearly in masterpieces like the dance and music. There are no unnecessary details, it's just pure color, rhythm, and emotion. They became icons of the modern age for a reason.
And this quest, it reached its ultimate expression in his final years. He was given the chance to design a complete work of art, the Rosary Chapel in Vence, France. And when I say design, I mean he designed it all. The architecture, the furniture, the murals, and these magnificent stained glass windows that just bathe the inside in colored light. He really considered it the masterpiece of his entire life.
So, after all the revolution, the rivalry, the constant reinvention, what was the ultimate goal for this so-called wild beast of art? Well, it was surprisingly simple. Peace. He dreamed of making art that felt, in his words, like a good armchair for the soul, a source of calm and relaxation. From a law clerk by chance to a master of pure tranquility, Henri Matisse didn't just change how we see art, he changed how it makes us feel.